Well, it's fancy seeing you here, Stephen. We're back with the Elizabeth Strala and Sage Stevens show. Happy to have you again. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much for the invitation. It's my pleasure. I always enjoy having conversations with you, on or off camera.
They're very powerful, most of the time completely unstructured.
Mm, yeah, ad lib's good.
Well, today,
Extemporaneous, as one of our friends would say.
yeah, thinking on your feet, right?
That's right.
And that's the art of it, the art of communication, a little bit of structure and mostly being able to think on your feet and never let what you want to say get in the way with what people need to hear.
Hmm. Agreed.
Well, Stephen, today, because of the life experiences that you have, because of who you are, I really want to pick your brain on the state of the world, everything that's going on in the Middle East, everything that is happening globally to people. What are your initial thoughts on all of that?
The state of the world is similar to the state of an individual, as I see it. And as I see it, if an individual has done something to create an environment that is counterproductive to what they really want, and are supposed to achieve. In other words, it's in alignment with their life's purpose. That's what most people call it. Um, the things that are in the way need to be eliminated. For example, if you are in a challenged marriage and you want to feel a certain way in a marriage, and there's absolutely no way that that partner can offer the feeling that you're looking for, chances are that marriage is going to end, clearing the way for the perfect marriage that you're seeking to enter the picture. Most people, though, would think, oh my God, and they'd go into a state of panic because now they're heading toward divorce, thinking, I just want him to be this way, or I just wanted her to be this way and make me feel this way. You can't control what other people do. So when you're focused on getting that new job and then you get fired, well, don't panic because you're fired. You wanted the new job anyway. Now you got time to go out and look for it. It's the same with a spouse, it's the same with whatever. And on the global scale, when we're talking about war in the Middle East, we're heading toward a place as a human existence. We're heading towards, as I see it, a new age of enlightenment, of love and light and joy and celebration. Well, if you got a cancer cell somewhere, and if we use the analogy of a body, traditional medicine says cut it out, because if you cut it out, it's not there. Now, as an energetic healer, I would say that's probably not the best option, but at the same time, it's an option. So when I'm looking at the world as it is, and I have lots of friends in the Middle East, I have lots of incredible clients in the Middle East, the powers that be that were recently eliminated were the cancer cells that were standing in the way for the entire global human existence to rise. They were, energetically speaking, a cancer cell, because by their very nature, they were limiting the free will of the people that they have put themselves in charge of. And they were controlling things like media and food supply and currency value and on and on and on. And it's not like anyone else in the world that's in very high positions of leadership didn't warn them, didn't say, hey, change your ways or you're going to be not in the way anymore. Or however they framed it. I don't watch media, so, mainstream political stuff. So anyway, yeah, that's how I see it. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, and I have more questions for you.
Okay.
Do you think there's any benefit in watching mainstream media? Because I personally don't watch it either, and something that always comes into my awareness when I tell people that, how can you still be connected and know what's going on in the world? How can someone still cultivate a sense of compassion and wanting the best for people in the world, not coming from a place of ignoring, neglecting, or denying the hurt and sacrifice that some people are experiencing. How can we still have that sense of compassion without watching the news?
Well, I
I
think
know.
our perspectives are a lot different than the average person in the world. You and I happen to be plugged into a global network of people that include many people in the Middle East. So the information that we get is literally from people that are there, that are experiencing it. I was just having a conversation with one of my interpreters while we were prepping for a uh, Zoom call. She was telling me about the drone that she saw. She lives in a beautiful high rise in Dubai, and she was telling me about a drone that she saw fly past her building and land and crash several miles away just a few days prior. So we're getting real information. It's not tainted by the political view of this channel or that channel or the broadcaster or whatever email or memo that interviewer got before they went on air. It's true based on the perspective of the person that's telling us. And then if you are plugged into that part of our network where you're getting the real observed situations. We have realer news than the average person. Also, you and I have been on a path toward enlightenment and um, refining of our discernment for a while now. And most people see stuff that are on mainstream media, those that still watch mainstream media, and they just assume that it's true. And therefore, they react in a way of, oh my God, that's terrible. Or, um, if you're tied to the Middle East in any personal way, you're thinking, thank God, it's finally time. And what those two different opposing opinions do is it creates a rift in the world. And generally speaking, mainstream media and the powers that control mainstream media depend on that rift. They depend on the "oh, you're wrong, I'm right" perspective and argument that is ongoing wherever those conversations happen, at dinner tables, or I don't know, over the produce counter at the grocery store, wherever those happen. I don't know. I'm not part of them. Um, the rare occurrence that that topic comes up, the first sentence out of my mouth is, well, according to my friend in Dubai, this is what she's experienced. And according to my friend in Iran, so and so, this is what he has experienced. And that often shatters the perspective of the person that brought up the topic in the beginning, because all they have to depend on is whatever mainstream media channel and the viewpoint of that channel or broadcaster um, made. So they're assuming that that's the only perspective, and it's the correct perspective. Not necessarily. Every single one of us has a different perspective about everything based on our reality and our understanding of it.
It's interesting. Or you see the people who claim to have this sense of discernment when watching the mainstream media, so they still consume the media, and perhaps they evaluate what's going on and they can see behind the curtains to a degree. But from my understanding, even still, the information is going into their subconscious.
Well, when it goes into their subconscious, it's now affecting their their energy field, their subconscious, their um, I think it's the amygdala, their judgment of that condition. And spaced repetition then eventually affects what their point of view is because of spaced repetition. So whatever they're watching, regardless of the position, could be a complete and total fabrication of facts repeated over and over and over again, in morning news, afternoon news, evening news. And if that's a place that you're plugged into, well, then eventually you're just going to take on a belief or position, no matter how strong your discipline and discernment is. It's just the way our brains work. And that's why I think the powers that be do what they do, because they understand how the mind works. And the average person doesn't. They're more concerned about how am I going to afford groceries and the phone bill this month than they are about how their brain works. needless to say, their energy system that they may not even realize they have yet.
Well, Miller proved what you're saying. He was an extreme example of it. Eventually, over time, people develop this collective belief.
Mhm.
If something is shared enough, people begin to believe it. What you're talking about is really powerful. This is how it works. It's how it operates.
Yeah. And even in the countries that are war torn, like Iran, for example, and maybe we shouldn't even name Iran because, this is going to be censored on YouTube because we named the country. But the country that's in the center of all this, or I should say the two countries that are in the center of all this, the populations there are largely divided. And they're largely divided because they're divided between the people that watch the media of their country and eventually were sucked into the belief that the powers that be there wanted to propagate. And those that didn't look at those media sources, that observed what was happening in their business or with their neighbors or whatever, and came up with their own free thought opinion, um, those differing opinions then created the rift. Some are for the old regime and some are against the old regime, especially um, even well, the people that have been around for a long time, someone that's, say, 60 years old and older, they remember that when they were kids, that their countries were full of abundance and resources and life was happier. But if they're younger, well, they're swayed because all they know is what the world was like since whatever regime took over, took over. So they only have the opinion based on their experience. And then even some of those people that remember that their children or their childhood or their young adult lives were better, they've been listening to mainstream media long enough that they've been swayed to the other side because they've been convinced that, oh, this is a good thing. Meanwhile, they went from one of the wealthiest countries in the world to one of the poorest, and they're wondering why they're struggling because it happened slowly. It happened over time. We're talking about almost 50 years of effect from the leadership that had a particular motivation that wasn't necessarily the benefit of the people.
I want to talk about the cycles of destruction and rebirth. It's obvious that the world feels unstable to a lot of people right now because of the extremities. Fun question for you. Do you think that peace can exist without war?
Oh, good, great question. The answer is absolutely yes. Because when people find peace in themselves, they have no reason to make war with anybody else. When you reach a certain stage of human expansion, you get to the point where you realize that to argue or debate a opposing viewpoint is unnecessary and completely counterproductive because all it does is generally create a wider chasm between you and the other viewpoint. And once you get a high enough level of evolution, personal evolution and understanding, it doesn't matter what the viewpoint is. It just has more light or less light. So all you can really do is send love and light to that person who has such a staunch opinion, regardless of what side of the debate they're on, and serve as the example of someone who expresses mild preference over this side is right or this side is wrong.
So, coming from a higher perspective, coming from the collective consciousness, what is the purpose of war?
The purpose of war is to create a vibration of doubt, uncertainty, fear, anger, pain. It creates low vibration. And there is yin and yang. There is both positive light vibration and negative dark heavy vibration. And we are coming out of a cycle where the heavy dark vibration was at its maximum, and we're heading into the part of the cycle where the light um, vibration is increasing and the dark is decreasing. So that is creating the conflict. that is creating what we perceive as panic, anxiety, stress, because as you and I both know, change creates anxiety, not because change is bad, it's just new. So we have to adjust with it. And many people are afraid of change. They want to settle into a groove and be comfortable there. But growth happens outside of your comfort zone. Every motivational speaker in the world has said that over the last 50 years. So, the international global state right now is causing you to do one of two things: to either expand and grow and lift your vibration, or go in the opposite direction, which from a physical perspective, materialistic viewpoint, leads eventually to illness and transition
In the individuals.
in the
Yeah,
individual. Exactly.
absolutely. What I can see, it's almost this grasping, this need to control when people are motivated to go into war, right? Because then they're protecting their land, they're protecting their culture, they're protecting their governments, all of these things that they attach their identity to.
Well, if let's talk about the need for control. I deal with this a lot in my practice, is people think that they can control things that are outside themselves. There's only really three things that you can control. Really, really. You can control what you think, believe it or not. You can control what you say, and you can control what you do. Now, some people will say, oh, I can't control the way I think. I just think the way I think. Well, really? Now we can talk about belief. Well, where did you get the belief that that is the way it is? Did someone convince you that you can't think for yourself? Did someone disempower you somewhere through your life? Were you abused or neglected in a relationship somewhere? How did you get to that place where you decided that you couldn't think for yourself? Because there's other people, myself included, that were neglected or abused in some way, shape, or form. And instead of retracting from that and believing that I had no power, that believing my position was an inaccurate perspective, I stood up to it and I leaned into it and I said, no, I am who I am. This is who I am. And I'm going to disagree. And eventually, at first, staunchly disagree. And then over time, that mellowed, that mellowed. And I got to the point where I no longer have to stand in opposition, because standing in opposition didn't fix anything. I had to let go of the need to control that other person's opinion and just
Oh,
let them
that's
stand it.
powerful.
I'm sorry, go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, that's really powerful. I had a cognition a couple weeks ago from a life experience that I had. I saw this cyclical pattern repeat itself from past experiences. And when I confronted it and I stood, as you're mentioning, I realized that my intention in standing where I wasn't for justice. I wasn't looking for justice to, because I was done wrong, this is what makes it right. I wasn't looking for that counterbalance. I was looking for the freedom.
Mhm.
And what I realized is I didn't care what the outcome was. That's interesting. In terms of war, in terms of what's going on, for the collective and for individuals, when people are seeking this righteousness, this justice, this is what has to happen because this is what's right.
Mhm.
Would you say that that's a lower frequency or vibration than freedom? And could justice lead to freedom, or does that keep someone in the cycle of karma?
I would say the latter feels most true, that it keeps you in the cycle, or keeps people in the cycle, whether that's individually or collectively. However, because they're in the cycle, they're really just tools in the karmic retribution or balancing. Retribution is wrong because that implies that someone was right or someone was wrong. I'm just saying that they're part of the opposite side of whatever that other person or group put out into the world. And at some point, if you think of this stuff as a pendulum on an old grandfather clock, it swings far to the right and swings far to the left, and so on. And as the energy in the wound mechanism that is wound periodically in that watch, like an old watch, for example, I don't wear a brand new fancy watch. I wear a watch that was given to me by my grandfather. And I was wearing this at dinner yesterday and I realized, oh, I hadn't wound my watch So I was asking someone next to me, what time is it? What day is today? But when you wind something and it has a pendulum, it swings less and less and less and less until the energy has been balanced, and then the pendulum holds still. And when the pendulum holds still, well, now you have a clock that's no longer keeping time. Or how about this? A clock that's no longer keeping score.
Mm.
So if you have something that's no longer keeping score, well, then what's happening? Nothing. Peace. Peace is nothing happening.
Right, well, aren't we playing the game? The play of consciousness, isn't this the whole point? I
Hmm.
mean, if everyone is living in this blissful, peaceful state, would there even be a physical reality?
Well, it would be awfully boring
Yeah.
because where's your opposition? Where's your contrast? I use this example a lot in my practice. I use the example of coming to Earth in this incarnation to a soul perspective is similar to you and I buying tickets to the newest, hottest roller coaster at whatever famous amusement park. We're going to sit down, we're going to create a plan. We're going to book our tickets, we're going to buy our flights, we're going to plan a hotel, and where are we going to eat out. We maybe have to save for the trip, we have to take time off from our work or our business, and there's all this planning and anticipation and excitement. I want to ride that roller coaster, and then you get on the roller coaster and you're like tick 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 up that first hill, right? And of course, there's tons of lines, by the way, tons of waiting, tons of anticipation until we are on that hill going tick, 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 tick. And then when we get all the way to the top, we're like, oh my God, this is higher than I thought. Oh my God, right? And we eventually come down the hill at warp speed and we go around loop to loops and right turns and left turns and all this other stuff. And about 2.5 minutes later, we come to a screeching halt, and we're either screaming, oh my God, that was the worst decision of my life, I never want to do this again. Or you're like, well, you want to get back in line? That was pretty cool. And then we end up standing in line for another 2.5 hours so we can get back on there and have that 2.5 minute excitement, thrill, scared feeling all at the same time. Well, on the soul perspective, it's the same thing. We're in the non-physical, we're love and light, we're an extension and expression of God. There is nothing except love and light and peace. So what do? Well, we come down to a place where there's density, where there's materiality, and we experience contrast, except it's not a physical ride, it's an emotional ride. You can't realize what love and light is unless you know what darkness, anger, fear, hate is. So then here we are in this world going back and forth, love, light, fear, anger, love, light, fear, anger.
So I
How can you
guess
appreciate the high part?
yeah. Okay, so from my understanding now, after hearing you explain it, the only time the issue arises is when people attach and identify to certain physical outcomes or ideations,
Exactly.
when they're no longer coming from that soul perspective. They're coming from, "This is how it should be in this world."
Yeah. And how does that happen? That happens because when we come down into this world, we have, for lack of a better term, birth amnesia. Because here we are, this living light being that has eternal life that takes different forms. And we come into this meat suit through the process we call birth. And now all of a sudden we're surrounded by bright lights and all of these big beings that can't perceive my thoughts anymore. And I'm in a meat suit that I can't clearly communicate with. So we're now in survival mode because we quickly realize that if I want to be wrapped up in a blanket so I'm warm, I have to make a certain noise. And now my butt's wet, so now I got to make a certain noise so someone gives that attention. And now I'm hungry all of a sudden, so I need to make another noise so someone feeds me, because you realize you can't work, you can't use these things.
It's a funny
So,
way to describe it.
right? So
It's
where do
very
you
true.
Yeah, but where do you get food? How do you wrap yourself in a blanket if you can't use these things and you don't know what a blanket is? So now here you are making these weird noises, trying to get the attention of the big people. Your life depends on it. So now you forget everything else, just like when you're in an emergency, right?
Yeah.
You're in a car crash. Someone next to you is bleeding and unconscious. What do? You're not thinking
Mhm.
about going to the grocery store and getting bread. You're thinking about, how do I get this person to a place where they're going to snap to and talk to me, and I know that they're still in the living. So now you're solely focused on, how do I live? Well, in the process of being in the survival mode, eventually the programming starts. This is light. This is dark. This is a ball. This is mom. This is dad. This is a kitty cat. This is a dog. And then slowly but surely you're realizing, oh, they're communicating with these sounds that I'm hearing. I have to understand what these sounds are. So now you're so focused on learning what these sounds are, and you're trying to figure out how to say those sounds so you can communicate, right? And this is happening over years, because when you're born, you're just a blob in a blanket, cute as heck, smell great, but you're a blob in a blanket. And then slowly but surely you start to crawl and walk and talk and hold conversations and full sentences and express emotion based on the reactions of the big people that were around you. So they now react to a certain set of words or a certain event, which then teaches you, oh, well, I have to react in that way because apparently that's the right way. You don't know any other way.
Wow. So the main issue that we're dealing with here with the collective and with the individual is survival. How do we take the individual, how do we take the collective out of this survival state so that it can return to what is true and what we have the capability of experiencing in this lifetime now that we aren't cavemen having to survive, right? And
The question is how.
yeah, and back to the how. I mean, if the world is feeling it, the individuals are too.
Mhm.
There are so many people that walk around with this stress, anxiety from traumas, living in this survival state. Their whole nervous system is a wreck. I mean, how do we do that? Where do we go from this state of disarray for the collective and for the individual? Is
Mhm.
it silly for an individual to address their internal turmoil with the world being in the state that it's in? Right, there's bigger pressing issues here with the global world. Shouldn't we focus on that? And then that will address what's within? I don't know.
No, I would say the exact opposite. If we focused individually as what's going on the inside that we identify as undesirable, and we transmute that into something that is desirable. In other words, I feel afraid right now. I'm scared. I'm anxious. I'm nervous. I'm whatever. And we focus as an individual to get ourselves back to a place of calm and centered and groundedness. Well, then collectively, if everyone were to do that on an individual basis, there wouldn't be the anxiety causing, stress creating feeling of whatever negativity we want to identify it as. So the question was, how do we get to that state? We continue what we're already doing, and we continue what the yogis and gurus of the East primarily have been doing for thousands of years. And that's do our yoga, do our meditation, our praying, our contemplation, our seeking of inner peace. And that's what this vibration of collective consciousness on Earth is doing right now. It's causing so much aggravation, nervousness, anxiety. The pendulum is so far this way, it's going to cause you to either implode, explode something, end this existence as
Yeah.
we know it, or it's going to cause you to start going back this way
Mm.
on that pendulum of mood, attitude, internal sense of peace. Because we've been heading to this new age of enlightenment, as I perceive it coming, we've been heading this way for a long time. But we had to get to a breaking point. We have to get to a point in anxiety. The nail under the hound has to get enough uncomfortable that we decide, okay, I'm either going to die from this and develop cancer, diabetes, heart attack, whatever, and leave this physical existence so I can get back to non-physical love, joy, bliss, or I'm gonna get off my butt I'm going to stop eating processed foods. I'm going to stop consuming mainstream, biased creating, mind programming downloads from XYZ television station. And I'm going to go outside and touch bare ground with my bare feet and enjoy a hike or meditation or yoga or eat, what do you call, Tai Chi or something, and let go of that stress and anxiety and the perception of, oh my God.
I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah. You got to reach that moment because that's the moment that makes decision. That's the moment that you identify, I don't like this. And apparently, I can't wait anymore for everyone else to change. So I guess, gosh darn it, I got to
Need
change
to
myself.
change. Gotta change. Stephen, this is where you become a huge asset to an individual. It is a challenge to change on your own because you have all of these energetic imprints. You have this bank, this black ball of negative energy. And to address this all on your own can be very overwhelming.
Hmm.
And from my understanding, two banks are bigger than one bank. So when someone knows someone like you,
Hmm.
for example, me, I've come to you many times. I've had something that I was dealing with that was keyed in, triggered at the surface that it was overwhelming. My pendulum was over here. I just cannot take it anymore. What do I do with this? Okay, let me call Steven.
Yeah.
And if you can explain a little bit about your energetic rewire program, what that is, and how is it even possible to help remote heal somebody? How can that happen digitally?
That's a really great question. And I've been trying to figure it out for myself because this whole thing has been quite a surprise for me. If you'd have told me this is where I was going to be 20 years from 20 years ago, I'd have been like, yeah, right. You're nuts. This is crazy. I believe in brick and mortar. I believe in,
You used to be an OG.
I,
You were you were in jail, you were out partying and
oh yeah.
picking up all the people and doing the thing,
Yeah.
living the life.
Yeah. I had the big house and the fancy cars and flew in the planes and did all that. So what was the question?
So the question, what is energetic rewire and how is it possible for you to heal remotely?
Okay. So energetic rewire is partially your fault. What happened was I was learning and gaining confidence in the remote healing art and skill or talent or ability, however you want to phrase that. And I was getting amazing positive feedback from the people that I was, for lack of a better word, experimenting on. Because, quite frankly, I didn't even consciously admit to myself that it was a true, real thing that can possibly happen. I heard about it here and there, and I always kind of thought internally, is that really real? Or is it just neurolinguistic programming or hypnosis or psychosomatic programming or placebo effect? Or I'm thinking about all these things that we're taught about that explains why this miraculous thing can happen, and having some level of belief in them because this was in my field of understanding. I also kind of went through a martyry phase where I was like, boy, if I step out again in a new way in this part of my life, am I going to be crucified again? Like I was when I was a real estate investor, doing my best to help bring about change in the city I lived in at that time. And, ultimately found myself in county jail over stuff that I didn't do and under investigation by the FBI for stuff I didn't do, thrown in prison for stuff I didn't do. But it is whatever it is. Okay. All those things turned out to be incredibly wonderful, positive things that led me to where I am now. But I went through that mental rehash. I had to think, boy, what if I step out and say I can do this? Well, it was about 250 or so people that sent me emails and telegrams and text messages and voice messages and videos saying and expressing to me how I somehow positively affected their life because of this session that we had, whether it was hands-on or remote or whatever, just in my want help to help them, to help the person that at that time we were raising money for. And then you come along and say, well, Stephen, why don't you just get an Instagram channel? And I'm like, oh God, you got to be kidding me. Instagram, social media, really? Aren't I a little old for social media? And, all of that conversation that we've had many times. And then, anyone that knows us knows this all started with a conversation outside of a Chipotle a year or so ago. And now here I have this Telegram channel and created this energetic rewire program. So to get to that part of your question or answer is, what is it? Well, it's a 90-day, 12-week energetic healing and coaching program that I put together after getting this wave steady. It's not even a wave. It was a steady stream of, oh my God, oh my God, I can't believe this. Since we met, this is what's happened. Response to a hands-on or remote healing situation. So with a lot of internal consternation on my part and the constant encouragement from you and hundreds of other people around the world, it wasn't like I just did it in Cleveland, Ohio. I did it everywhere all at the same time. And all of this feedback just kept coming back. You got to do this. You got to do this. You got to do this. You got to take it out in the world. I eventually gained the confidence and the understanding and the acceptance that, yeah, it is a thing. And somehow this is coming through my body. It's not my energy, by the way. It's not me. It comes in, it goes out, it flows. I hear things that my voice are saying during treatment. And I'm like, what was that? Thank God we record them now. So I could go back and review and hear what my voice said. It wasn't me. Wasn't my consciousness. I don't know where it came from. It just kind of, but it's that whatever that was so profoundly affected the person that needed to hear it that it triggered change in them. It triggered cognition, understanding, and a moment of awareness.
How is that possible digitally?
How is it possible digitally?
I could
Uh,
see with you being in the room with somebody
yeah,
because it makes more sense, right? You're working with the physical energy. I mean, we know that auras are a thing, so how are you impacting people at the cellular level digitally and at the physical level? I mean, you're clearing people's physical ailments
yeah.
digitally.
Well, I'm not doing it digitally. It's appearing digital because it's using a medium that we're using right now. If I were to turn that question around and say, when we're on a Zoom together, can you feel that I'm there?
Yeah.
All right. I can feel that you're here. But where's here? You're in Indianapolis. I'm in Cleveland, Ohio. We're 4.5 hours apart, geographically speaking. So, how is this possible? Well, it's possible because there's no such thing as time or space. It's only a perception. We need to have time and space when we're in this place because we have to be able to agree that if we're going to eat at Chipotle, we got to know which Chipotle and we got to know what time we're going to meet each other there. Or I'm going to show up when I'm hungry and you're going to show up when you're hungry, and they might be two totally different locations at a completely the wrong time. So in this life of materiality, we have to have time and space so we can coordinate schedules. But if you take the energetic soul perspective, there is no time and space. And that's the perspective that I often am perceiving from. All I got to do is understand that. And all the other person has to do is accept that maybe it's possible. They don't even have to be totally convinced about it. They just have to accept that maybe this is possible, because I've seen so many stories. I've seen so many posts of this person and that person saying, oh my God, it's incredible. I can't believe this happened. And this is what's happened to my life since then. So now there's doubt in their doubt. In other words, they're now questioning their own doubt because How is it possible that all these people can say that there's been a positive effect by the Zoom meeting they had with this bald guy in Cleveland?
Yeah. Can you what results do people see? Can you tell me an example, share a story of something that someone has experienced from your energetic rewire?
I'll give you some generalities at first. And the generalities are I hear everything from one of your testimonials that you shared with me on video of a physical ailment, a physical pain that was bothering you in your neck and shoulders. Somehow, after we did a call, the symptoms started going away. Ease was right there. It was somehow diffused and dissipated. So physical symptoms go away. Well, a physical symptom can be like a physical ache or pain in a particular part of the body, but it can also be a chronic illness, like my friend Megan, who had severe diabetes and was on 2 insulins and had a monitor shoved in her arm, and all of these things. It could be 2 stage 4 cancers, like Tanya out in California, who was sent home on hospice when I met her. She never heard of me.
Wow.
Someone who knew me referred me to her husband, who then said, "Hey, we're at this point where either you and I are at that part in our marriage vows where we're soon to part. And I would rather you kind of hang out for a while. So maybe we should talk to this guy." She wasn't exactly excited to have that meeting, but we did have the meeting, and an instant change happened, and she felt it, and he saw it and felt it. So what did this do? This created a series of treatments that ultimately ended with her being removed from hospice. Her traditional, conventional, modern treatment of chemo and whatever else they wanted to throw at her was stopped immediately. She was, I think, scheduled for 6 rounds, and they stopped it after 3 because all of her tests were showing that there was no need for it anymore. Now we have chronic illness. That's a physical situation. What else? Well, all of a sudden, I'm getting reports of, oh my God, our marriage is so much better now. Will you talk to my spouse? Yeah, sure. I get reports. Oh my God, since I met you, my income has doubled. Okay, cool. Could you send me some? Can
Right. I'll
I have
take
10%
commission.
of the increase? I undercharged you. Send me some more.
Yeah. So the at the individual level, I can see the benefits are clear. I mean, people are able to experience life more fully when the inner turmoil goes away for emotional blockages, when mental resistance goes away, when physical resistance goes away.
Mhm.
You're helping people melt this and heal themselves. Back to the bigger picture. Do you think that if enough individuals start healing internally, could that change the trajectory of the world?
I can definitively say absolutely yes, because here's the proof. It's the proof to you and me, not so much for the average listener of this or viewer of this. You and I happen to belong to an organization where we take a bunch of people that are normal, average, materialistic viewpoint perspective, that have a certain vision for themselves, or maybe haven't even figured out a vision for themselves yet. And they're coming to discover what that vision for themselves are. And they're realizing that they have to make a certain amount of change in the way they think and act and speak. And they transform their lives because of it. And right now, that's kind of a closed environment. Yes, we're everywhere. Yes, we're all over the world in over 100 some countries, but we're proving that within that global community we've created, that we're a part of, massive positive change happens in people's lives. So if that can happen in our closed community, our tight knit family, functional family like environment, functional, that's very important.
Yeah,
Uh,
100%.
yeah. And because we're proving it on the smaller scale, bigger than the individual, but smaller than the global collective. What we're proving though is that if we could just expand it, if we can expand it bigger and bigger and bigger, if we can take these cells of light and expand them, eventually those cells of light will expand to the point where they now start overlapping. And when I mean overlapping, I'm talking geographically speaking. If you got a spark in Dubai and you have a spark in Cleveland and you got a spark in Miami and you just keep expanding outward, 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 those sparks, those circles, those bright spots are going to start converging. And everyone that geographically lives somewhere in between or is floating on a boat in the middle of the ocean is eventually going to feel it and they're going to experience it and they're going to go, oh. And I think that's what our friend says, all ships rise with the tide. That's why we learn about the 100th monkey syndrome. If we can just spread it and spread it and spread it and spread it, eventually we'll hit the tipping point, which is a great book, by the way. Eventually we'll hit the tipping point, and then all of a sudden, boom, everybody is just going to be in that state of peace, love, joy. We would have reached that expansion place where all of a sudden everything seems better. Peace is just normal.
Mm.
Now, what happens after that? Well, that's a whole nother question.
I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get there, right?
Uh-huh. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully it'll happen in physical lifetimes.
Interesting. Well, Stephen, it's been a pleasure to speak with you. I'm going to share your Energetic Rewire link to this video when I share it on YouTube because it is truly an asset. The potential that this program has for any individual to go through it, the transformation that they can experience at that level, and also as a collective, it is a extremely powerful ability that you have. And I thank you for doing the work that you're doing. It's raising the tide of
Thank you.
the world, the state that we're in.
Thank you. I was at first an unwilling participant. Now I'm starting to embrace it and accept it and have fun with it.
Mhm. That reminds me of an Eckhart Tolle quote. He says, I'm probably butchering his name. He says that there's no point to resist the present that you're in. The
Yeah.
conditions are how they are now. You are getting all of these messages. There's nothing, there's no point to resist it. You kind of have to just embody it and understand, hey, this is who I am. This is why I'm here.
Go figure. How did that happen?
Yeah.
I'm just going with the flow. I gave up the need to control,
Isn't that so interesting how the things that we resist the most are typically the things that we need the most
right?
or the world needs or other people?
Yeah. Just give up control. I'm going to equate that. A lot of people in this day and age will understand this analogy. Once upon a time, I was a young man battling sexuality and religion and had this sense of what was right and wrong and what was moral and immoral. And eventually I just came to the conclusion, you know what? I feel this way and I just can't accept anything other than this feeling. Everyone else's opinion doesn't matter because me trying to fit into their image, their idea, their box of thinking doesn't feel good. So at some point, I kicked open the closet door and just told the world, look, this is who I am. If you are okay with it, cool. Let's go forward and have fun. And if you're not, there's the door. My dad used to say, don't let it hit you where the good Lord split you. I think I got that confidence because at some point I became fairly well successful at a fairly young age, and I rose to a position of management and leadership and so on. And I was already perceived as someone, in charge, an authority. I wasn't an authority over anybody else, it was an authority over me. And when I finally stepped out and said, this is who I am, like it or leave it, that made me wake up to a truth that most people haven't figured a lot. Well, I'm not going to say most, a lot of people haven't figured out yet. And that truth is When you live in your own authenticity, when you live completely and fully honest and open and receptive, and you stop trying to fit into everyone else's idea of who and what you're supposed to be, you all of a sudden have 10 times more allies and friends and partners and investors and whatever else that you were looking for and challenged in getting. All of a sudden, those things come out of the woodwork because your authenticity is attracting their authenticity. What you want all of a sudden aligns with what they want. And those two or three or four people or a dozen people that you were afraid of, most of them, they say, well, yeah, I knew that already. About time you admitted it. Or they said, I'm glad I finally know who you are. You're not what I expected, but I'm glad I know who you are. The two or three people that didn't understand it, didn't like it, had an opinion, were staunchly on the other side of the pendulum, they left my life. I didn't have to do anything. They just left. And then all of a sudden, life got a whole lot easier because I wasn't running into this constant, you have to be this way. I wasn't running into that. It wasn't there. I was now free. I was free to be me and to function in a way that was as good as I could with the knowledge and understanding that I had in that moment without any fear of that person or that entity or that institution telling me anything otherwise. It didn't matter. I was being who I was.
Moral of the story here is get rid of the gunk, release the resistance, let go
Yeah,
so that you can find who you are, so that you can express and experience who you truly are.
absolutely. Do it in a way that is still polite, still respectful of other people and their opinions and their perspective in a way
Mhm.
where you can maybe not understand necessarily, but at least accept that other person for who they are, where they are at this moment in their own personal evolution. Because you've given up that need to control, just let them be that. Just let them be where they are, who they are in that moment. Because unless they have such a tight control on who they are and where they are right now and they never want to change, they're not going to be there tomorrow. They're not going to be there next month or next year. And that person may come back into your life. They may come back into that immediate circle of people and experiences around you. So it doesn't do you any good to burn that bridge, to
Mm.
have that old position, to be staunchly in the opposite opinion or perspective. Just let them be. And if they ever come back, cool. It's like you never left. It's like they're still welcome and you're welcome. And that sounds awfully like an awfully lot like peace. Because how else could you end up in the other person's field unless you start thinking and feeling and vibrating more similarly? Because we all know birds of a feather flock together. Like attracts like.
And maybe that's why people leave your life is because you are no longer living a facade and you're living your authenticity. So if they're living a facade of any shape or form, you represent everything that they aren't.
Yeah,
So then, of course, they're going to have extreme opposition to you or leave your life.
exactly. And here's an indicator I'm noticing in the general world right now. Once upon a time when I was 20-ish years old and I was in sales and people would ask me, "How are you today? How are you?" You're just walking in the grocery store, or you're buying your lunch at the local restaurant and they say, "How are you?" And I'd say, "I'm terrific," or "I'm amazing," or "I'm fantastic." They would be shocked because the normal answer was, "Fine, how are you?" That used to be the normal answer. Now, I'm in those scenarios again and I ask them, "How are you today?" And they'll tell me, "I'm terrific. I'm amazing. I'm fantastic. I'm working on it. I'm getting better." I'm getting these positive affirmational words from this person I never met that 30, 40 years ago I would have not heard if I asked. I'd have gone, fine. How are you?" And then that would have proceeded with some conversation about something stupid like the weather, or, who died or what was on the news or
Yeah.
whatever. And now there's an era of excitement and oh my God, it's so nice to meet another one of us. one of us being someone that says has a positive perspective and answers in some other way, then fine, how are you?
You're awake to some degree.
Yeah.
People are waking up.
People are waking up. And we need more and more and more conversations like this. And we need more and more of these conversations to go viral. And we need more and more of these conversations to continue the waking up and expansion process so we can get to that place where we've hit the tipping point, where we've reached the 100th monkey syndrome, where now we can sit there in this place of peace, not only individually, but collectively as the human race on planet Earth, and now say, wow, we got here. Now what are we going to do? Let's create this.
The future is bright, and the reason why we can say that is because we're experiencing it. We can see it. We can feel it. We have it now.
Yeah. So don't you
Interesting.
want it too?
You're right.
Whoever's in there watching this, don't you want it too?
Yeah. So if whoever's watching this, I will share Steven's information for the Energetic Rewire super powerful program to go through. 90 days is a completion cycle,
Yeah.
and that'll be a super powerful experience for all who do it.
Yeah. So let me paint a little bit more complete picture. It's 90 days, 12 weeks, one on one with me for about an hour, where we heal whatever's coming up for you at that moment, give you tools to move forward so you don't recreate the environment again, the condition again, the situation again, the health issue again, the brokenness again, whatever it is that you're experiencing. And it's going to plug you into a community of like minded, positive, supportive people that are going to encourage you to be who you really are, to be the authentic you. And if you don't know who that is, and if you don't know what that purpose is, they're going to help you and encourage you to experiment a little without fear of, oh my God, what are you doing? What are you doing that for? Just go get a normal job. Why do you got to rock the boat? Why do you have to piss off your mom like that? None of that. It doesn't exist in my community. It doesn't exist in Elizabeth's in my community. It's all about, what are you playing with now? How can I help you? Oh, you got an
Mhm.
Instagram page? Cool. I'll pop over there and I'll give you a thumbs up every now and then. Oh, you're starting a business. Oh man, that sounds really cool. Can I invest? That's the environment we live in, not what the heck are you doing? Why are you doing it that way? That's not what I taught you. Well, no disrespect, but I don't like what you taught me.
You don't have what I want either.
Don't have what I want. I
Yeah.
listen to people that finish my sentence.
Have what I want and have been where I am.
Exactly. And I have a vision of where that is. And I'm heading in that direction. And who advises me? People on that path.
Mhm. Wow. Great stuff, Stephen. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity. I really enjoy our getting together like this.
I know it's fun. I get so much out of it, and I have to watch it again and again afterwards to get the full understanding of everything that we discussed. And this was a big one. I mean, we talked about a lot. We talked about the state of the world, the state of the individuals, and how we can really bridge that gap to really experience the true peace and serenity that everyone deserves. And
Yeah.
it's one bite at a time, one individual at a time.
Next time we do this, let's do this with others in a group.
Cool.
And
Yeah,
let's see
let's.
what more minds come up with.
Yeah, that's actually a great idea. A group interview style conversation in
Yeah.
different parts of the globe.
Oh, oh, that could be interesting.
Very different perspectives.
Yeah. Awesome. Well,
Oh,
it was a pleasure being with you. I appreciate your time and your effort and all that you contribute to this, your energy, your beautiful smile, and the physical presence that you've chosen for this life. I appreciate you very much, very deeply.
thank you, Stephen. My pleasure. Bye.
Be of joy.
Be of joy. Thank you.